Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Zerg. In the red, the Executioner. It's Rogue. But up against the most creative Terran player. In the blue, we have GuMiho. A best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown, where I'm very interested to see what GuMiho has in store, because Rogue has been smashing Terrans, including the world champion Clem, left, right, and center. Almost as dramatically as I like to ask you to smash that like button. And while you're there, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we? 1,444 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Sixlings on the way. Reaper coming to have a meet and greet with the early Zerg forces, though. The Zerg's not nearly as enthusiastic about that whole idea. GuMiho behind it, following up at the command center. Factory on the way, so standard fare to start things off, as the Zerglings will try to corral the Reaper unsuccessfully until the Queen comes out to defend her flock. And it looks like Rogue was able to sneak out a drone and get that third base set up before the Reaper even noticed, trying to go for that creep tumor. But not gonna find it, not yet. And GuMiho will have to settle for chipping away at the morphing hatchery. Hellions will be the choice. GuMiho, maybe the only player recently I've seen even think about battle cruisers. I'm throwing that out there. Though I doubt we're going to go that direction. Rogue seems quite comfortable in dealing with any early shenanigans and dragging the game into this late game nightmare. At least for the Terrans. Mass Overseers, mass Changelings, mass Nidus. All these things that, until recently, you saw significantly more in the campaign than multiplayer. He's just scaled it up to such a level that it's become effective. And Terrans are pretty used to dealing with a Nidus or a drop or a few Changelings here and there. But truly embodying the Swarm, on the other hand, is a bit different. Looks like the SCVs and a single Marine handled the Zergling Scout. Roach 1 is on the way. It's going to be a Liberator from GuMiho. The cheapest, depending on your definition, in almost every definition, early starport option. Doesn't require a tech lab, and can get an inordinate amount of kills if you're looking the wrong way for even a few seconds. But early Hellions poking and prodding, working their way by, trying to keep control of the creep, as this is just the flirting phase of the game before both sides are able to build up into such economies that they can be much more dramatic about it. Already some roaches on the way. Defensive sloaches. Not even a lair yet for Rogue, so just enough to make sure those Hellions don't get any funny ideas. Liberator is making his way up along the north side. The Queens bouncing across the field. And Barracks are the choice. It's going to be a straight-up bio build follow-up, as Rogue already headed towards the lair. He likes a very quick or relatively quick lair compared to your average Zerg, even if it isn't Cloak Banshee. Having access to Roach speed earlier, Overseers to scout, at least early on. And unfortunately for Rogue, well, looking the other way, Liberator comes in. Queen will politely yet firmly ask it to leave. Hellions looked for an opportunity to dart in, now gonna swing around. Queen still fighting against the Overseer. GuMiho looking for an opportunity, but again, the grenade may cover the retreat, but he may lose. Nope. Gonna siege it up in the corner, just in case, oh, and a Zergling counter. The Hellions on the wrong side of the map to deal with this, though. A Banshee and some Marines come out. 5 SCVs. Pretty good damage, especially considering it was just about a dozen Zerglings. Another important point is the Overseers. I mean, the Overlords, sorry. I'm looking into the future. The Overlords spotted the Hellions come back, which means Rogue has used this opportunity to pump out another couple dozen drones. He's up over 60 and counting. Getting the double evo, actually a little supply block from losing a Scouter Lord. Infestation Pit already on the way. Could it be Swarm Hosts? There's a possibility. I don't think it's a probability. But third base just now taken from GuMiho. That is a very early infestation pit. Obviously, you can go towards Hive. And Rogue is filling in that economy. Need about 70, 80 drones usually to support. Ah, lurkers. Yeah. That makes more sense. Hydra Den, or much like Hydras themselves, the Hydra Den is the proto-lurker den. Leading into it, the Banshee. Gonna scratch at the hatchery. Overseer taken down. Changeling as well. I doubt it'll be the last. Billy! Billy, you finished the armory. Come back to work. Job's finished. Yes, we know. Job's... Oh, nope. Job's finished. All right, well. Lurker Den on the way. Hive as well. As GuMiho moves out to try to keep control of the creep. But that is a couple dozen too many roaches to deal with. He finished his combat shield and... Overseer. Interesting quirk. The changelings don't gain combat shield unless they were spawned after combat shield already finished. That changeling did not gain the combat shield upgrade visual, which, you know, is a shield. Even though it was already on the field. So, the more you know. Hive, Lurker Den, 1-1. Neither player really making much of a dent so far. We're on Oceanborn, which is historically and recently our most macro-oriented map. Not necessarily turtly, unlike some other maps, like Post-Youth is a good example. But instead just the distances between the bases and the fact you have to commit so much to get to them means. But both players kind of sitting back and boxing out. But GuMiho, of course, with Medivacs, going to try to get something done. Rogue a bit late on jumping on this drop. Will be forced to cancel his 5th base. The Hydras are on the field, slithering towards the Medivacs, though able to get away in time. Lurker range already 8.5 minutes. We're already working on Lurker range. No adrenal glands yet, though he doesn't have too many Zerglings. The Zergling is important to just muck things up and make it difficult to target down a few individual lurkers. Once you get to like 7, 8, 10 lurkers, then it doesn't matter as much, as the entire field is filled with their spines. It becomes very treacherous for any Terran out there. GuMiho, 182 supply to Rogue's 184. Both sides moving up towards 200 as I finish this sentence. The Marauders and Banshee back at home. Odd home defense for us, but it works out. Lurkers on the high ground, tanks on the low. Gonna open up the rocks here. He spots the lurkers. A credit to GuMiho. GuMiho, for better or worse, usually for worse, but emotionally for better, is not a big ghost enthusiast. He likes finding alternative and usually more conventional methods. In this case, the Fusion Core. Fusion Core is on the way, though almost certainly for Caduceus Reactor as a way of supporting his forces. The Medivac energy regen upgrade. GuMiho probably the only player I've seen who gets that on a regular basis, as opposed to an afterthought. Still no adrenal glands, but there's 1 Nidus, 2 Nidus, red Nidus. Nope, no blue Nidus. That's not how it works. Double Nidus will be the choice. Much harder to deal with. Yes, they're 75 apiece, each of those worms. But if you can gut the entire base, it's well worth it. And the stress and multitasking, it is kind of the equivalent of Terran's drops, where if you're out of position, say at your 5th base for even a few seconds, you might lose that base and then some. Thank you, GuMiho, for demonstrating my point. 4 Medivacs headed towards the main, 3 Medivacs towards the natural. There's almost nothing in the main base to defend. Brenda! What? I'm going, Susan. I'm walking as fast as I can. Remember when we could... Don't you say it! Sorry, The Liberator remains. Medivac taken out. There's another drop unloaded. Rogue has spotted it. 3 Medivacs survived of the Doom drop in the main. The Lurkers realized they were already where they were meant to be and re-burrow. GuMiho losing some superficial forces. The Liberator remains. It may remain until the end of the game either way. Overseer gliding in. Caduceus Reactor is on the way. as GuMiho has 4 command centers and 0 ghost academies in production. And he hasn't finished a ghost academy either, so knocks out the overseer, but there's a changeling in the main base. Was taken out. Wow, that sensor tower coverage is incredibly efficient. Doesn't quite hit the right side, but he hits the entire angle to the south. And GuMiho admits that we're getting to the point where there's no real other solution besides the ghosts. 8 overseers, 10, 11 overseers in production for Rogue as we go in to the extreme late game. The critical mass of the swarm. Not only, it doesn't matter what your supply cap is. In fact, the overseers provide supply. But the only way to get more units in any realistic fashion at this stage of the game. But GuMiho has a bunch of Vikings. He's doing what I think other Terrans have not really invested in against this style in the past. Like just 6 to 8 Vikings. Just enough to easily take down any overseers that stray forward. Make sure they can't block things like snipes in the fight. And, oh my god, there's 16 more on the way. 16 more overlords. He's not willing to build up a bank when he could be investing it. Alright, investing in the future. In mass changelings and FPS drops. It actually is a bit of a concern, though I don't think for pro play. For these casters and their fancy graphics, arguably. The first Nidus screams. It's spotted. The lurkers will burrow. He's going to deal with the Nidus worm. In fact, GuMiho standing his ground even as the lurkers slice through. Able to get away. 4 ghosts in production. And another 13 overseers. It's going to be 30 of them. Just about. Oh my. Well, here we are. The new Zerg versus Terran. Now 69% more Zergier. Another wave of changelings is set out. As, yep. Oh my god. Hey, 3-3 finishing across the board. More changelings taken down. There's no way to automatically kill them. You do, while splash damage will affect nearby changelings, there's no real way to, you just have to click on each one. That's part of the value. Just stressing the multitasking. Again, in much the same way Liberators and Medevacs do. Stop doing that! I don't... Nuclear missile is in production. Parasitic bomb on one of the Vikings. They land out of it. It remains in the air. Rogue is now aggressively expanding. There's a single Hellbat standing guard at the northern base, but he didn't think to have any guards at the outlying ones. So now Rogue is expanding to 2 bases, which, if we were calling this a half-and-half map scenario, should be GuMiho's. The changelings are just wandering in the pipe 5x5, right, boys? You guys aren't even trying anymore. Changelings. There's some ghosts out here, but the Zerg are everywhere. And in every which way. The changelings are the most dramatic and convoluted way to get vision of the main. And he drops a double Nidus. GuMiho. Well, here comes the Banshee. And 2 Niduses. 1 Nidus he would have been able to deal with. 2 Niduses, though. This is dragging the entire army back. There's still 1 changeling in the main. So easy to miss. Roaches will burrow at the 3rd. I gotta stress, he's doing this with 330 APM. Which, there are plenty of players who are sweating in Diamond League with more APM than that. Same for GuMiho with 320. These are 2 players who are incredibly well known for working smarter and not harder. Another double Nidus in the main. 17 more drones behind. I can't help but think he's gonna do some, like, overseer trick, spore trick action. These Niduses, well, they've distracted the entire army, so this entire, like, the lurkers are cross-hatching the entire base. I keep saying entire. 101 drones, 25 lurkers, 44 overseers. And GuMiho has had no real opportunity to strike back. This Banshee will take the duration of like 17 scans to kill these Overseers, assuming it's just left to sit there. Another Nidus. He's putting it down, but the army comes back again, and GuMiho has not been able to move forward. He keeps having to take all of the steps back as the changelings are growing in number. The lurkers are diving forward. GuMiho has money in the bank, but he hasn't been able to get out of his base as Rogue is closing in. The Overseers to make it almost impossible to actually... They are physically blocking the ability to click on the lurkers. Terrans have become complacent with their ability to just magically wave their snipes around with rapid fire and snipe everything. Oh my. Is it like... He just gives up. He gives up on killing the changelings because it's going to take too much time to pick them all out. More changelings, more command centers, planetary fortress, another set of Nidus worms. Stop doing that. If you look into the eye of the Overseer looks back into you with like 17 eyes. All in favor, say aye. The changelings. He's gonna end up killing his own units. He's trying to kill the changelings. He's struggling. Even if you have detection, it doesn't matter. The changelings are their own bespoke unit. And they look like one of yours, so they must be manually right-clicked every single time. And with 44 Overseers, I believe units regenerate energy at about 10 every 15 to 20 seconds. I don't know the exact number. It's not 1-to-1, but that's something, that's like 50 or so changelings a minute from these Overseers. 50 energy apiece. That's not how math works, but, you know, it's a lot. It's too many for GuMiho to deal with, clearly. Lurkers again. But GuMiho is just being put down. Like, I've never seen a Terran be so clearly outmaneuvered here. Usually there's a big back and forth where the Zerg loses a fight but wins the war. No, Rogue is just slicing him up. He's doing his best Kerrigan cosplay here. Well, I guess Queen of Blades would be more accurate. The Kerrigan cosplay is the one happening on GuMiho's side. Oh my. The ghosts. Their intense expertise called to right-click on a bunch of changelings. Need to do... Stop doing that! God. A whole bunch of changelings. He could block the ramp, potentially. There's a tank stuck in the main. Of course there is. But these Niduses are unchallenged. He's just giving up. He's just going forward. The main base exposed. He's now scrambling back, but the lurkers are already here. And he nukes. Is it that... He's just gonna nuke right next to his base. Scorched earth policy from GuMiho. This is... Well, the nuke may do more damage to the Terran infrastructure. I don't think Rogue noticed it, because why would he nuke his own base? And it didn't even solve the problem. There's changelings blocking the ramp. He knocks out the attack. GuMiho still has money in the bank, but he's... Oh, wow. GuMiho, GG in 2 different languages, as Rogue with an comprehensive beatdown. The Niduses are screaming after the game ends. Wow. That was one of the... That was just bullying. I've seen one-sided matches, but that was as one-sided as a Mobius strip there. That was, at no point did GuMiho look like he had any chance of winning. And it's not like Rogue did a lot, he just kind of closed in. The Boa Constrictor Zerg. Well, we're going into post-youth, just like both these players and most of you at home. As, game 2. I don't know how you... Wait. GuMiho didn't get enough pressure. If your opponent is able to get 50 Overseers and drop 20 Nidus Worms, well, you, at some point, did not put on enough pressure. we're at that stage where for several years now, it's felt like, they're both sides of this story. For several years, for everyone but like maybe Sarah, and even now including Sarah, the answer to dealing with 20 ghosts has been, well, you let them get 20 ghosts, so that's kind of on you. And now we've turned it around to, doesn't matter if you have 20 ghosts, you let them get 50 overseers. So that one's kind of on you. Now, I'm not sure where we're going to shake out here, but I think the genius of it is turning the greatest strength of late-game Terran against them. You have a lot of strong individual units as Terran. You have a great economy. You have a lot of production. And when you get all these things, it makes it almost impossible to pick out changelings, makes it almost impossible to actually focus on any one thing, because you have so many areas you need to defend with units that are, for the most part, required to be individually micro, especially ghosts, to an extent liberators. So, at some point, all those strong units cannot be concentrated in the same way they were because of the way Rogue's playing. So, what do I think the answer is? It's certainly not sit back and allow him to cut up your base with Nidus for a while. Somewhat, I don't know how well it would work because of Neural Parasite, but I'm willing to watch some players test battle cruisers. A couple battle cruisers in the main, can jump them, like tactical defense cruiser. The downside of this is if they go with infestors through the Nidus, or just in general, there's a chance you get neural parasited, and it's used against you, or at least easily killed. But that would be another step. Infestors, a remarkably vulnerable unit, some of the flimsiest of all spellcasters in the game. So, and Rogue seems quite intent. I feel like Rogue hates using infestors so much, he just invented an entirely new metagame to ignore them. He didn't build a single infestor in a 20-minute game against a half-map Terran, which sounds like heresy nowadays, but he built like 2 Vipers, maybe. But he's like, I would rather build 50 Overseers than 1 Infestor. Especially since the Infestor's been neutered so much from its original, admittedly oppressive form. I mean, the most important part, in the best part of the Infestor was removed, which was the part where it spawned Terrans. Somewhat ironically. The Infested Terran ability, and its ability to spawn dozens of free units, was the most oppressive part that prevented a lot of compositions from being viable. So, Rogue has said, what do we do in the late game? We spawn Terrans. These ones don't shoot, but they do serve a similar purpose of overwhelming the multitasking capabilities of the Terran army. So, time is a flat circle. Oh yeah, there's another game going on, by the way, but so far, literally 0 units have died, so I apologize for not keeping you up to date on whether or not the Hellions were flame-tonguing the Queens hard enough. But so far, the answer is no, they haven't. Roasted a couple creep tumors that weren't even completed yet, so they don't even show up on units lost. I feel like it's important at this time to remind people you don't have to A-click on changelings. Something that I didn't know for over 10,000 games of StarCraft 2. You can just right-click. The reason you don't want to A-click is because if, in the heat of things, you're not entirely sure a unit is a changeling, well, when you A-click your Marine with your entire army, that Marine is very unhappy for a split second before it's obliterated. So you gotta be kind of careful with that one. Cloak is done, and the no cancel. Oh, pretty big mistake out of Rogue. The Roach is coming in, but he's just going to try to hunt down the Queens. There might be enough damage to overwhelm them, but the Roaches are able to box out the rest. But losing that 4th base is a bit problematic. He really wanted to have that online and be able to defend it because GuMiho now is lining up for his medevac timing. This map has a lot of great siege tank push locations. Baneling Nest Hive on the way. Wow, that is a fast hive. He's not going lurkers this time. It looks like just Ravager Ling Bane, and then throw some Vipers on top for some extra spice. Ravager saved by the Queens. GuMiho. Overseer. The first Overseer coming in. Road speed. Oh, we forgot road speed. Ooh, a little sloppy this game from Rogue. Forgetting road speed. He just walked into his own corrosive bow. And he got his 4th base killed without a cancel. These things add up. And now a bunch of... Where's your Overseer? Hello? Get off my creep! Brenda, they killed, like, everything. Still, it better late than never. Oh, okay. Well, Baneling, speed, road speed, more drones dead. GuMiho, much more successful in the multi-prong pressure here. And that is a big part of being able to keep the Zerg from exponentially expanding. Yeah. All these upgrades are coming together. Here's the problem. GuMiho's gonna have 2-2. He's going to max out. There is not going to be much more than Ravager Ling Bane. And the lack of road speed is making... Well, the fact that road speed wasn't done until now means that Rogue shouldn't be able to delay the 4th base. They're equal on workers. GuMiho is going to have a very capable Terran army, plenty of siege tanks, and there are no lurkers to deal with it. There's not going to be ultras for quite a bit. They need their chitinous plating, and they're not even necessarily the ideal choice. Oh, he doesn't have Zergling speed. Oh, no! Hey, very, very slow on the upgrades here in Game 2. Incredibly ironically from Rogue. As they are the speed upgrades he's been missing. And those tanks. He's getting +1 mech weapon. He's also in position to knock out the drones of the Marines. He's spotted the Vipers are consuming the hatchery that's about to be under direct siege tank fire, which seems a bit risky. GuMiho darting in again. He's trying to force the issue. GuMiho's about to have 2-2 done. This is peak timing for GuMiho. This moment right here. He just finished +2 infantry weapons and armor, and he finished +1 mech weapons. Rogue going for a massive counterattack. Or a huge flank. It's unclear which one it's going to end up being. Big counterattack. Banelings. But he gets some target fire. There's another siege tank on top of the ramp. He can bust his way through. But great Sim City. And by the time the Banelings get into the main, they're down a half a dozen or so. Oh, no, they lost track. I think he went to an A move for a second. But Rogue is going to lose his 4th base. GuMiho will lose 13 SCVs. Yeah. Well, the siege tank helped kill a couple more there. But Rogue lost his 4th. He's got another 4th base, but it's cut off by the Terrans. Rogue is desperately trying to buy time till adrenal glands, till more upgrades. The tanks are just holding the center of the map. Rogue is just going to go around again. And if GuMiho doesn't lock him down, this second, he's already softened up the defenses. But not enough to actually break through easily. So, another army being cut off. The tanks, kind of on their own. Binding Cloud. There's so many tanks. Look at that spread. Can't believe it's not butter. Another drop in the main. Hellbats hold the door. Parasitic Bomb. He picks up while he still can. I don't know if these medevacs are going to make it out. He's got to start dropping out. He's trying to... Oh! Well, still going to be incredibly annoying to deal with. Another drop coming in. GuMiho stutter stepping past. 14 drones dead. And the Marines cleaved out of the main, but Rogue definitely not in a position to make 50 Overseers this game. This is what I meant by keeping the pressure on. As GuMiho, he has 2,300 minerals in the bank. I think he lost some of his reactors in the main base. He does have 8 barracks at the moment. The Zerg army, the creep spread is pretty much non-existent. He's cleared it all the way back to the bases, and the Ultra has to go all the way around here. Just a bit too thick for its own good. Oh, Blinding Cloud, though, uses a bit of hold position, but some of the Marines ran directly into the Ultras. The planetary holding, it will break eventually, but at what cost? As Rogue cleaving through the Ultras, starting to work their way into the base, and microing all... Oh my. Well, Ultra's pretty good. Is something that's said occasionally. A drop, though. Undercutting Rogue's economy. He's down to 139 supply. This was a desperate last gasp here. The Ultra being outflanked. It's a melee unit, and these Marines, these dudes with drugs and guns, will just keep stimming and they'll just keep winning. Chasing down the Ravagers. And now a 50 supply gap has opened up. And Rogue is on his last legs. He never got Ultra speed. Add it to the list. Oh my god, that parasitic bomb is doing terrible, terrible damage. But GG, GuMiho strikes back. A well-executed pressure keeps his feet to the fire, and he's never able to build up that ridiculous late-game army. At least for now. So we're all tied up at 1-1. A lot of little mistakes add up quickly. And allow GuMiho to take it home. He put himself in a position to force those mistakes. Make no mistake yourself. It's not like Rogue just decided he wouldn't get these things. If GuMiho was not sitting at his base, then do you think Rogue was going to forget road speed? I doubt it. As we chrono boost through the early game, just keep track of what early choices they make, while also not dawdling. GuMiho, leave some space for the reactor. One rack's wait, is that a command? That's a command center first. Indeed. Factory on the way. Reactor. We'll be going right next to it. The Zerglings probably going to be a bit confused at the lack of Reaper. Rogue didn't even send an Overlord across at all. This is as far as he got, halfway across the map. Doesn't want to bother losing it. The lack of Reaper is already a bit of a giveaway. Well, neither player scouted. Rogue scouted to the center of the map. GuMiho did not scout at all. So, both players quite, yeah. The Zerglings scouring just in case there's a proxy, because if there's no Reaper early, there's still options for early shenanigans. But so far, coming up empty. Queen's gathering. Aliens patrolling. I think GuMiho's at his best at that, like, 170 to 190 supply siege tank timings. Siege tanks. Only since the Widowmine was nerfed have we seen players really pulling the siege tanks back out. The siege tanks haven't been buffed or nerfed. They simply are. But realizing that siege tank's still a very, very good unit. It's just you can't use it in every scenario. I think overall has benefited Terrans more than having a slightly better Widowmine that almost everyone agreed was not the greatest game design would be. So, a fake interference matrix, or maybe he really wants that Raven later. He fakes it out for the Overlord. Will Rogue call his bluff? Rogue will likely be getting a lair in time for an Overseer anyways, but so I don't think we can credit that fake out as the inspiration, but certainly not going to slow it down. Got the barracks in the way. Not going to be any mech today. And then he just gets a Raven. Are you going to start interference matrix again? He's holding the Banshee at the back. Is he actually building a Raven? I don't know why you'd build a Raven instead of a Banshee if you're trying to fake it, because a Raven costs more. So, interesting. But GuMiho, one of the few players who actually uses a Raven instead of having to be effectively waterboarded into it. And by that I mean a Raven as early detection and creep spread clearing, as opposed to like a glorified cannon rusher, turret rusher, tower rusher. But that is what about 85% of Terrans seem to use Ravens for outside of TVT, which is just slapping down an auto turret and hoping for the best. And GuMiho, well, okay, well, he's a Hellions too, so it's not just as he slaps down an auto turret and hopes for the best. Raven takes a lot of damage. It's a relatively fragile creature. Forces the respread of the creep. Doesn't lose anything, kills a few Zerglings. But that is another main weakness, is when you're building a Raven, it's not a Banshee. It requires a tech cloud. It delays your medevacs. So does it, even though it saves you from needing to scan as often, it costs that gas and it costs that time. And the opportunity cost is not really worth it for some. If he loses it early, especially, then it did not pay off. Maybe able to just take out this base, especially if he uses an auto turret. Here come the Queens, Overseer in the main. Auto turret to zone out, targets the base. He's gonna commit, and no cancel from Rogue. Loses a couple hundred extra minerals there. Not the end of the world, but kind of a unforced error. And that's not really what unforced means, but there's no reason he couldn't. Yeah, you want a piece of meat, boy? Is it who is this? Can you Ravens? Raven with the Hellions still clearing the creep, going for the base again. Double medevac drop headed out, looking to hit the same angle. This is the 5th base. Rogue already has the other base for the 4th. So not exactly. Brenda, well, you know we're off, and this is a very dangerous game we're playing, Susan. This entire game is dangerous. You know how many people have heart attacks thinking about hitting ranked? Run! I blacked out from. Hellbats joined in. The Banelings will crush them. But overall, I think a pretty good trade. Well, Rogue got the Raven. So that'll be the end of that, but I think it was worth it in the end. 5 Queens dead, and some Zerglings, as well as the 5th base. Very importantly, more Changelings coming in. It's a nightmare. Does he not notice? Ah! Little mini game. Becomes kind of a mega game as time goes on, but GuMiho's up 20 supply, though a lot of the reinforcements strung out the Zerglings and Banelings, and there's no wall! The Zerg aren't sending their best. You have to build a wall to keep the Banelings out. Rogue with a massive counterattack. 33 SCVs obliterated in seconds. GuMiho not keeping the door shut at home. He's forced to pick up the siege tanks, doing a lot of damage. But GuMiho turns a 20 supply lead into a 20 supply deficit, just like that. Rogue with a huge counterattack, but it pays off. And then some 42 SCVs dead. All Rogue has lost are some Zerglings and an unfinished base. Banshee coming along, but he crushes from both sides. The Lings and Banes rolling by. He's out of range of the siege tanks. Will micro back, but Rogue pummels down both sides supply. Rogue at 68 drones. GuMiho on his last legs here. Was that Burrow? He does have Burrow. I think he accidentally burrowed the entire army. There's a lot going on, though. +2 infantry weapons is closing in. GuMiho still has those last rounds of production before his economy got obliterated. So he has the army supply. 76 to 55 now. Another round of Lings is coming out. The queens are pulled to the front to defend. That means no one's back at home injecting the hatcheries. Yeah, this is all 4 of his queens. If he pulls them for too long, he'll run out of potential production. He's already running very low on larva. And GuMiho, I think, recognizes this position. He knows his economy's bad, but he knows Rogue has no... Oh, that was also... The Banelings smack into the Marines. He was looking at the Zergling counter, and Rogue finds the opportunity, and the Banelings just keep connecting. And the SCVs were transferred to it. GuMiho is falling apart. It's a disaster. It may very well be the end. GuMiho still has the army supply. He's down to 18 SCVs. He can't mine from his outlying bases, all because he didn't wall off. Rogue is still strong. He doesn't have +2 upgrade. He just abandons the base. The queen assassinated. GuMiho's almost out of energy on those medevacs, but Rogue, he does not have a hive. He does have a Hydra den, but it's just Lings and Banes. So GuMiho trying to stabilize at home. There's an alternative 4. He finally got that one towards the, like 8 o'clock. Now just sieging into the main, where there's a macro hedge as well. Few Zerglings out there gonna try to draw in, or a few Marines try to draw in the Zerglings. Do some extra damage to the tanks, but Rogue, he's 10 seconds off the 2-2 upgrades. He's going to attack a split second before. Siege tanks retarget. That's so many Lings and Banes. He's forced to pick up yet again. 2-2 completes. Trying to micro at the back. GuMiho trying to get everything he can. But it's not enough. Rogue claims victory. GuMiho unable to keep up with the dramatic... Rogue he committed so much to the counterattack. If it had failed, he would have lost the game. Like, committing, of your 70 army supply, committing 40 to a counterattack, if you don't completely obliterate their economy like he did, then you have nothing at home to defend. So, a pretty big gamble, but Rogue is no stranger to those. And it pays off. He wins 2-1. Well, hopefully you enjoyed. If you got the means and motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But you're liking and subscribe. Still free, at least for now. And if you haven't yet checked out the second channel for more content as well, Winter Gaming TV, playing the new Factorio expansion, which is just like Terran versus Zerg, except with a bit more focus on the SCVs. Job's finished. But otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.